Yeah.
And I'm putting that Tigers down a half bet where we win that in the pool at Circus Stadium. Like, all-time moment. You can't beat that kind of shit. It's fucking awesome. Hello, welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane. We've got Pace here, Gosu in the house, and on today's show, the full BetBash breakdown. We'll learn about DeGenClub and, of course, the gridiron grind. It's starting to really heat up. All right, guys, what a week we had in Las Vegas. Just incredible. But now here we are, all back at home in our original spots. What an awesome record we did last week. That was super cool, Pace, in your room at Vidara. I think we had like 12 guys in there. That was a lot of fun, just doing the podcast in that kind of a way. Lots of fun there, but we really kind of just want to break down everything from the week. It was such a jam-packed week. I'm trying to like jog my memory now because there was a lot going on, a lot to digest in terms of information and people you met, and of course, I think we all digested perhaps just a little too much alcohol, possibly. I know myself. It took a few days to kind of recover. I feel like I'm just starting to get back in the swing of things, but. Why don't we just kind of start off with kind of how the week began? Pace, I know you got to play in like a VIP poker tournament. How did that go?
Do you not know how it went? And you're asking me, or do you know how it went? And you're asking me to run it in.
So maybe that's why I'm asking.
If you guys have never played in the VIP poker tournament at BetBash, or you even care about attending at some point in the future, it's good to know what you're getting into. The VIP poker tournament costs quite a bit of money to play in, on top of your BetBash ticket. And BetBash certainly is not a cheap ticket, but as Spanky alluded to when he was on the show, you can definitely get your money's worth from the conference, whether it's knowledge, alcohol, or both. Sounds like Shane maybe really got his money's worth, but yeah, you can pay extra to play in this poker tournament. It's like a turbo tournament, where you go from 100 plus players to like the winner in like 3 hours. So the blinds raise fast and you got to move fast. And last year I played really well in the tournament, and a guy went all in with Queen 10 and I had Ace Queen, and called him. And if I had won this hand, I would have been the massive chip favorite and probably favorite to win it all. But he smacked a 10 on me on the river. To break my hand. But with that knowledge heading into it this year, I'm like, okay, fast and loose. Let's let it rip here. And I think I played 6 hands, and I mean like 6 hands happened. And I think I played all 6 of the hands. Like, I can tell you all my hands. I got 5, 6 of diamonds. I got Ace 10. I got King Queen. I got Ace 9. And then the hand that I busted. And it was really cool because when I sat down, Mike the Mouth Matisow sat down right beside me. And I grew up watching, World Poker Tour, Vince Van Patten, and would study some of those pro guys. And, in the whole poker craze, Mike the Mouth Matisow was one of my favorite guys to watch because he was always getting into altercations at the table. So anyways, Mike the Mouse sits down beside me, and anyways, he raises pre-flop, just a small raise. I look down at Queen 10, the hand that busted me last year, and I'm like, well, this hand never loses. And the flop came out just a rainbow with a queen on the top, and he c-bet. And at that time, I just played 4 hands, lost all 4 of them, hit nothing, but really was still in okay shape. And I'm like, fuck, I'm shipping it on the mouth, and went all in. And he calls, and he had Ace Queen. And I think I was the first person eliminated from the poker tournament. But it's a lot of fun playing in it, and look forward to doing it again next year.
Wow, first one out. I mean, I guess there's some bragging rights there, I suppose.
Definitely not a coward.
So, yeah, exactly. So that's pretty cool, though. And there was a few other sort of VIP events that kind of took place over the course of the week. I know there was a golf tournament that was like really early Tuesday morning. that a bunch of the guys got out to. I heard good things about that when I was at the bar, at the first open bar that night. But Pace, did you attend any of the other VIP events that happened over the course of the week?
No, so they have the golf, and then they have the Legacy Club and things like and the dinner. I know Spanky was super thrilled on Thursday when I told him I was going home on Friday because he went, "Oh my God, people are like, they needed basically more tickets available for that final night because people were hoping to get in, and we were able to free up a couple spots." So he was thankful for that, but no, I didn't attend anything else. And honestly, like all of us left Friday, John, or did you stay?
Well, I left Friday morning, yeah.
Yeah. So Shane, just think about how long that week was, and then tack on Friday, with Friday being like the biggest night for the VIPs, and then waking up Saturday and getting home. It's like, it is a long, long week. Like it really is. It's a lot of fun for sure. But at the same time, like you get home and a nap could never be more welcomed.
Yeah, seriously. It is a very long week, very draining, tiring, lots of fun, but yeah, take some days to recover. The seminars, so many seminars to go to. You had this full menu of learning opportunities to choose from, and it was really difficult to kind of pick and choose. John, what seminars did you go to? What really kind of stood out for you?
Well, I know I've mentioned it a couple of times. So I've always been a big Brett McMurphy fan. Listen to his podcasts that he's on and stuff like that. To follow him for news and like insights and stuff. I think he's actually been really spot on with a lot of the way things have evolved in college football. So he's obviously, for those who don't know, he's a college football insider. I think he used to work for ESPN and a couple other places, but yeah. So like going to that seminar, meeting him, he's a funny dude. Learned a lot from him. Talking about, or just getting good perspective on as a Heisman voter that he is, and an AP voter, just some nice insight into markets that are influenced by things like that, perception on teams that are number one overall going into the first week and everything. So that was really nice. And then that session on the same game parlay stuff and thinking about creating stories and everything is kind of something I think we do already in the way we think about how we're scripting out games. When we think about betting it over and under, betting a side late in the game, a team to cover some garbage or something like that, we're kind of already piecing together that live story while it's happening. So good to see other people thinking things the same way. And then obviously our own session I think went really well. Enjoyed answering questions from the crowd and being up on the stage with you guys.
Wow, I almost forgot that we hosted a session ourselves, a seminar. I was just thinking about the stuff I attended, but yeah, I guess we did do that, didn't we? Man, we had a packed house for that. I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe we would be speaking to 30 people, 40 people, 50 people, something like that. I think we spoke to like 150 people in that audience.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was big. I hadn't been physically in front of a crowd like that in quite a while. Since the pre-COVID days, going into the office, speaking in front of a department and stuff like that. So that was fun. I enjoy stuff like that. I like that nervous energy. It's a rush.
Yeah, it can definitely be a rush. It was, Pace, you speak to hundreds of people almost daily or near daily, especially as soon as September rolls around. It's pretty close to daily, on live streams, right? You're live, you're streaming 12 hours, 14 hours straight, something like that. You're speaking to hundreds of people all the time. But I could tell that, your approach in a live scenario, live in-person scenario, felt a little bit different for you. Am I right?
You mean less swearing and screaming about coaches and players? And
yeah, a little less of that.
Not no swearing, just less swearing. No. Yeah. I mean, I have some experience with that stuff. I was awesome. I think the panel format makes things very calming for everyone. So, those first words, you might come out a little bit jittery or whatever, but as soon as someone else talks, it just immediately, I don't know what that is. There's got to be a psychological aspect to that. But, I hear John talking beside me, he says something brilliant. And it just it like calms the nerves. And then you obviously want to add in what you can to the discussion in a productive way. I will say, we could definitely do a better job of having a little bit more fun up there. Like it was all business, aside from Elf showing up 5 minutes late and missing his opening segment that he was going to do. it was very professional. Let's put it that way. Like we weren't cracking a ton of jokes or, getting into, some of the things that we do when we obviously are live and live betting. But at the same time, like if you are a pro bettor, hopefully, or aspiring, that it was business. So hopefully you got something from it.
Yeah, it was very, we were perhaps maybe a little more serious than we needed to be, but I think being a first time kind of speaking to this crowd, it was probably the right tone to strike. When one of your panelists, as you mentioned, kind of shows up 5 minutes late, you kind of want to be the ones up there who are taking it a little bit more seriously. Not to say though that once Elf did show up and got on stage, that he wasn't able to I think give the audience some good information as well. So
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
But Shane, I kind of wanted to break down some of the things from my BetBash experience, if we can dive into that, just because I think so it was my second year attending, and it was definitely different than the first year for me. Not that the format was all that different, but I think that the knowledge from year one, I believe will be unprecedented for me. And the reason for that is I don't speak the lingo of the pregame bettors. I didn't even know what they were necessarily doing. I didn't know that there were so many syndicates and so many organizations that operate together to profit from the sports books that work together, that attend BetBash. And then I was really taken aback by the amount of people that fixate and focus on courtsiding. None of that came as a surprise to me this year, and there wasn't a lot of people in that department that then were able to tell me. I don't want to say tell me something that I didn't know, because I don't know their operations at all, but tell me something that didn't kind of catch me off guard or go like, oh, what's that? So kind of business as usual at BetBash in year two. As far as the seminars go, I got more out of them in year one than year two as well, just from the standpoint of when you're interested in something, you're going to gravitate towards that. So John mentioned Brett McMurphy with the college football preview. I never will not attend that seminar if it's on. I'll do that every single time, unless for whatever reason our seminar is at the same time. From that point onward in the sessions, I think if you are an attendee of BetBash, this whole like register and like, oh, it's closed now, don't go to it. Go to whatever seminar you want. What I ended up doing is looking at the board for each grouping and going, I'm going to pass on these sessions altogether, or I'm going to go to this one over here that I think I'll get the most out of. And then by the time you've done 2 or 3, you're really in a position where you're like, the human brain only takes on so much, and especially so much in one day. Attend the ones that you think you're going to have the most fun with. So the Judah's same game parlay sessions last year, I thought was a 10 out of 10. It wasn't as strong this year. Perhaps it was the format and not having someone up there speaking with him and him being in the bigger room. So I flipped over to go watch GRP strictly from an entertainment standpoint, and it delivered in spades. He brought out a big chunk of ham in a plastic bag, and he's not kidding. Like, he's talking about where to buy the ham and processed ham versus real ham. And then he brought, I mean, it's all over gambling Twitter. But his whiteboard was a big piece of paper that he was flipping through. And so this is the thing. So Matt the cat, Zilbert, I don't know him. I don't know if he's well known in the betting space. I think that he is someone that maybe some people thought was a serious bettor. But he said that -130 and -110 are essentially the same thing in his seminar. Anyone that is taking, like, this is the thing, like, believe it or not, GRP said a couple things that I was actually like, I'm not going to disagree with that. An example that he gave was taking a flyer on a crazy situation against the public, and he listed the Bills' worst record in their division at 750. No, sorry. The Bills' worst record in the league at 750 to 1. Now, that is never going to win if Josh Allen's healthy. But I hear that and I'm like, what if Josh Allen goes down in week 1? I think he's got like $50 on it or something like that. A lot of his other futures, like he notably said he took Dan Campbell worst coach of the year at 20 to 1 when it was 50 to 1 at other books, and people called him out on Twitter. He could have just not said that to us. And then he came out and he's like, so I bet it again at 50-1. And then he blended the odds on his paper and said, I get a new car if this wins. So like plenty of entertainment. There was like let's put it this way. There's an attempt at an eye for value, and he's super transparent. So like, I actually respect the guy. It was super fun attending. The -130, -110, same thing with Matt the Cat. He didn't prepare for the seminar either. He didn't have anything ready for people, and then mentioned that Spanky was paying him to be there in his seminar, which no respect there. From that point forward, I think the absolute best session of the entire thing was the wine tasting and education. It was unbelievable. The winery was amazing. The guy who did the presentation was amazing. Having a nice few glasses of wine to end the day that day was so much fun. Anyways, attend what you want to attend. Don't worry about any of the other stuff, and don't feel bad about not attending some of the sessions. Not attending the sessions on Thursday was one of the best moves I've ever made at BetBash, because the people that we spoke to outside of the sessions, both with social interviews that we conducted that will be coming out on our pages in the coming weeks, YouTube, Instagram, etc., but also the actual meaningful conversations with prominent people in the industry were hugely impactful. So we had an amazing discussion with Joe Brennan where he gave us some crazy insights on some of the things he's seen as the bookmaker that he is with Prime Sports and BetChris. Amazing discussions with Paris Smith, Rob Pizzola, partnership potentials with BetStamp. Just really, really awesome stuff from actually just taking a bit of a step back and a seat back at the seminar. And then I think the absolute cream of the crop for me, and this is going to stand true every single year, is betting with all you guys in the pool at the Circus Swim Party. John and I are undefeated in that pool now, including the craziest kickback to cover that Ottawa plus. See, I wouldn't have counted that as a pool bet because those were not bets we made in the pool. We made pregame.
That was a podcast bet.
We just hit all these bets in the pool. Everyone's cheering. We had people from BetBash that were betting it with us, cheering on the clip, and as we won. And then right after that, freaking Ottawa's deader than a coffin, and they get a kickback touchdown off a missed field goal to cover. It was just insane. But yeah, that Thursday is really what it's, that Thursday in the pool is where it's like, it's kind of done for us at least. And, we've done our presentation. We've connected with a lot of great people. Our brains are fried from the knowledge that we've at least tried to store. And it's just kind of a little bit of having a couple drinks, getting out in the sun and watching sports in a very cool environment.
Yeah, that moment was just absolutely incredible. That's got to be one of, not just a highlight from BetBash, but that's a summer highlight right there for me personally. And, Pace, I think the other big one was, I think I mentioned it on the podcast from the retreat. But Sound of Silence in Mansion, like that's an all-time moment.
Yeah.
And I'm putting that Tigers down a half bet where we win that in the pool at Circus Stadium, like all-time moment. You can't beat that kind of shit. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'd take Sound of Silence over that, but it was definitely a good one.
But both of those moments, just incredible. Yeah. Like I'll remember those the rest of my life. Those are just incredible, just amazing moments where you get to share it with a group of people, and it means so much more than any kind of individual bet could mean.
I owe you $200, don't I, Shane?
I wasn't going to bring it up, Pace. I'm waiting for you to send it to me. I'm like, and I'm not going to mention it. If he sends it to me, great. If not, because you know what, Pace, you were quite gracious enough to let me buy into those wagers because I was sort of not in a position to place them in the moments that they were made. And I think one of them, the Wednesday night, I think it was the Wednesday night bet placed at the open bar at Circa on the Tampa Bay Rays Oakland Athletics over. I think you let me buy into that, like when it was already well ahead.
The live total was 15, yeah.
Yeah, it was already well ahead. So appreciate you for bringing that up. I would, if you want to send me the money, great. If not, I won't hold it against you.
No. So this is like a super plus EV thing to do when you're with your friends betting. So this is not like we're professional bettors, like in play live plus EV stuff. This is a plus EV thing to do with your friends. And I do this with Raj all the time. He'll say, what did you guys bet? And I'll be like, well, do you want in? And he goes, well, what is it? And I'm like, it's simple. Do you want in or not? And he's like, okay, I'm in. And I say, he doesn't know the bet. He doesn't know the odds. And then I say, how much? And he's like, I don't know. Give me $50. So I'm like, done. You're in. I will never do that to him if we're behind. Never. And I'll say, oh, you don't want it. It's dead. That's like if he asks and he's like, okay. And he just moves away to the next thing. And then he'll go, well, let's go get something or whatever it is. That same approach is what I did with you, Shane, where I found out you weren't a part of the bet. And I said, well, do you want some of my action? And the reason why I do that is because it gets everyone involved, everyone on the same page, everyone on the same team. And I know I've bet enough that if I chuck a buddy 50 or $100, it's not going to move the needle any which way too seriously. Now, I don't do this with all my bets. It's about that social sort of vacation style experience. And Shane, you actually got in on the over when it was 15.5 live. And then the total got to where we needed 2 runs in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
And it was 2 outs, one runner on, and they hit a 2-run shot for us to cover, which was electric. And then with the Tigers, you got in after they were through the half. So you see, I'm talking now. You get amazing odds betting through me. You might already have the bet, and you might start going, "Hey, I wonder if Pace is offering up some action again."
Yeah, yeah. I think what did you get it at? It was 2.0 or 2.15, something like that.
2.0 is what I got on
right.
the Tigers, and you took it once you were through the half. So
that would have been down to like probably like 1.75, 1.8, something like that when you let me get in. So,
even they were pretty big favorites pregame because they're obviously a really strong team this year. I think it was like minus 150 when you got in.
Yeah.
Anyways, it came through.
That was absolutely great. I wish I had taken that approach that you sort of described for the seminars, where it's like, just because it says it's full doesn't mean it's full. Doesn't mean you can't just walk into the room and take a seat. I don't think anybody checked me for anything. And there was a few sessions that I was like, oh, I'd really like to go to that, but it's full. So I'm going to sign up for this other one and go to that. And I think I probably would have gotten more value out of going to the one that I wanted to go to originally. So I think if I were to go back again next year, that's something that I would probably do differently. And I would sign up for the ones I want to sign up for, but I wouldn't be too worried about something appearing as full because, and John, I don't know if this is the case for you or not, but everything that I went to, there were open seats. I saw open seats in just about everything. The only one that maybe looked like it was totally full was our session, but even that was held in the biggest room there, and there were still some open seats there as well. I think that would be my approach. John, did you sort of see that when you were going to like the college football preview and the SGP thing or those?
Yeah, the SGP was in that big room as well. So it's like while there were a lot of people there were just so many. I mean, there's so many chairs, right? They had half the chairs were turned the other way, but you could have just grabbed one and spun it around. But yeah, that was my experience. Those smaller rooms would get a little bit more crowded if it was like the college football one. I think it was pretty popular, so there were only a handful of chairs. But I mean, people were coming in late and still finding a spot, so not a big deal.
Yeah. Now, I want to mention one thing, and this is probably my biggest critique. And I don't know, guys, did you guys fill out the surveys yet? Like, did you get the survey in your email for BetBash and be able to go and sort of fill in what you thought and, rate it and all that sort of stuff and put in comments? No, you guys haven't done it yet. I did it last night. And really, I only had one major critique. I go to a lot of different conferences, mostly in for my day job in sort of the health and safety space. But we go to quite a few of them. And I've also covered a lot of other ones, some political ones, as a reporter, like long ago. And I've never gone to a conference and not been fed a full meal, like one full meal, a lunch, a dinner, whatever it might be, at least one of those where it's an actual meal. That was probably my biggest critique. It has absolutely nothing to do with betting or the content at BetBash, but really just about feeding people more than snacks, more than donuts or brownies or danishes or fruit, like an actual meal with a protein, whether even it's just sandwiches or something like that. So that's my biggest critique. Spanky, if you're listening, next time, feed people. Give us one solid meal in the day. I appreciate everything else about BetBash that you're doing there. And I understand things are expensive. It's Vegas. Things get a little expensive. Charge more. Charge an extra $100. Put $100 more on the ticket and feed everybody a nice big fat meal in the middle of the day. That'll help a lot at the open bar later in the evening. That's probably my biggest critique of the BetBash event.
Shane, I have to assume they got that feedback last year, because last year there was only the donut wall in the morning, and this year there was I saw pretzels with cheese, and then the Circus Swim. I don't know about the stadium watch party, but the Circus Swim mini burgers, chicken strips and fries, and
those were good.
Mini burgers, and chicken strips and fries were there.
Some nachos too.
Oh, and some nachos. Yeah. So that was like, okay, there is some food. There's something to eat. It's also tough too, though, because a lot of the stuff is not necessarily like something you can eat if you have like dietary restrictions or you're health conscious, like at all. Right. So,
right.
And I think just in general, like separately of that, that's always going to be a challenge at a conference. But you definitely get hungry throughout the day, and then all of a sudden you can have a drink or two, and the hunger can kind of like almost be curbed for a little bit, and then that's when things can get ugly. But I didn't see anyone too wasted. But Shane, you also have to factor in like that VIP legacy dinner probably costs a fortune, and everyone's ticket goes to pay for that, and they're not all attending it, right?
Right. Yeah. Good point. Well, that means a lot of the people who are paying the general admission then aren't getting the benefit of that, and they're paying for someone else's meal. That's kind of,
Well, I mean, In Play Live as a sponsor, we get access to that dinner, and we haven't attended, and we definitely help pay that, that tab and other tabs. But, at a conference like this, feeding people, I think, is a standard thing. But at the same time, you don't really want to think too much about like, oh, well, why didn't I get this or he got that? It's like, no, just go there, get the most out of it you possibly can. And that's a good mindset to have. And Shane, you attended the mindset seminar. I don't think John or I did. And I met those people after. I know they're coming onto the show, but why don't you share a little anecdote from that? Because that was one where I was like, in hindsight, that I should have been there.
No, Pace, I didn't get to go to that one either. That was one where I had gone to another one, and I had been hoping to go to that. Now, hold on. Let me mention the one that I did go to. It was actually called one Inside the Player's Journey. And what that actually was an operator, a regulator, and like a responsible gaming advocate, along with like a moderator who works with Americans Better Voices. And it was like probably the most sparsely attended seminar of the entire week, but perhaps one of the most serious ones. And it sparked a huge conversation in the room. So because there were so few of us there, like I'm talking maybe 20 people in the room for this seminar, and it really got people engaged, though, because those of us who were there care about things like real responsible gaming and what that looks like. And I sort of brought up the fact with this operator that, when people do bet responsibly, they do things like practice proper money management, diligent tracking, placing positive EV wagers on a regular basis, that they get punished by the sports books for that. They get booted out. And the regulator who was up on stage actually turned his badge around so that you couldn't see his name or where he was from. And then he said, okay, I'm not speaking as a regulator anymore. And he goes, what you're talking about is absolutely right. It's all fucking bullshit. he got super candid. And then we had a bunch of other people in the room who were like, one guy was a politician and he works for like National Council of, I forget what it was, National Council of Regulators focused on betting or something like that. I'm totally probably butchering his organization there, but there were some people from Massachusetts there who were talking about the Gaming Commission. There was, some investors who are critically looking at where they want to put their money in an ethical way. It really got into a very sort of vibrant conversation, probably one of the most substantial conversations I actually heard while I was at BetBash. So that was the seminar I went to. I didn't go to the mindset one. I came out of that, and then those guys who were part of our crew, our In-Play Live team, I think it was Schroeder and Marshfield, and Nick Chosen, he was there. They came up to me afterwards. They're like, "You've got to go talk to these people. We've got to get them on the podcast." So I went in, I introduced myself, I got their book, I chatted with Elliot a little bit and Sam, and yeah, it sounds like that their seminar really, really resonated with our people. And I've got their book. I'm going to be reading their book. It looks like a fairly easy read, something that, you can knock off in a week. And looking forward to getting them on the show because it sounds like what they're talking about will really resonate with our audience out there, all of us. So really, really looking forward to getting them on the show. But no, I didn't actually get to go to their seminar. But absolutely, there's a few other ones too, where like the UFC one is another great example where a few of our guys went to that one. I wanted to go to that one. It said it was full, so I went to something else. They came out of it. They're like, this was amazing. So I went in, introduced myself to Andrew and Yanni the Greek, and the guys who were giving the UFC presentation. And it sounds like we'll be getting them on the podcast over the next few weeks or a couple months or so. So really looking forward to that as well. That was actually one of the great benefits, Pace. So we had a full crew there, like I think we probably had one of the biggest teams at BetBash. I know it came up in the speed networking there where I kept talking to people. So we talked, speed networking was a whole thing all on its own. I mean, 5 minutes, 16 people. It went on for like 3 hours. You had to move around the room really fast, meet with people really quickly. But every time I was meeting with somebody, they're like, "Oh yeah, I already met a guy from In-Play Live. Oh yeah, I already met 2 guys from In-Play Live or 3 guys." And so I know we were sort of like, we kind of blanketed BetBash in a major way. But one of the great things about that was having the full team, being able to kind of spread ourselves through, attend the seminars, and then kind of report back to each other. So I found a lot of value, Pace, in just having that larger team there, to be able to kind of be like, well, what did you guys like? What do you think was interesting? And then be able to go and introduce myself to the people who are giving those presentations and chat with them for a little bit. So that was a really sort of great way to kind of attack a conference, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. John, any critiques from your end? Anything major that you think could be better?
I think you guys touched on a lot of the same things that I was thinking of. I mean, I know we've discussed some of these, candidly while we were there at the same time. So it's kind of the same ideas. I mean, I think one thing we haven't brought up, the open bars were nice, but that space was really crammed. And so if you were trying to, like, you really just kind of ended up stuck in like a little group of people, and you kind of talked either to the people you already knew or maybe random people that would kind of wander by or get stuck waiting on a drink at the bar next to you. And I wish it was a little bit more open. And I don't know how, I think maybe one suggestion was like using that huge conference room and just having a bar in there, almost like it's like a wedding reception or something like that. Because if the only thing that was being offered was like wells and like domestics and stuff, it's like you could just have a pop-up bar that does stuff like that, right? So that's probably a critique, because I had to kind of go circle the bar like a handful of times to just try to find the people I was still interested in talking to. And it was actually really difficult having to like slide through like a really dense crowd. So that was maybe just another suggestion. But I know like the event grows every year because their retention is really high, right? So I think those are just challenges they're going to have to think about as they move forward every year and using the same space for more people.
All right. Yeah, that's a good point. That was a bit of a challenge there. All right. Well, I only wanted to mention, one more thing. And, Pace, I messaged this out sort of once I had kind of come home and landed and, spent a plane ride thinking about everything that had happened in Vegas. And, it really was, and I mean this wholeheartedly and not just saying this, but one of the biggest takeaways for me was realizing that, it isn't what we do that's our biggest advantage, because people there are all asking, well, what do you do? What do you do? How do you do it? Right. And it's like, well, we bet live. Right. It's like, okay, that's easy to understand. But how do you succeed with it? And we can get into that. And we did in the live betting seminar. But, the greatest strength, I think, is the team and the people we bet with. And that moment was really highlighted in Circus Stadium at the Stadium Swim when we hit those bets. And it wasn't that we were all high-fiving and celebrating and everything like that. Those moments were awesome. And John, you might remember this guy. There was a guy who had walked by us a few times and looking at us, celebrating. He stopped. He asked, like, what are you guys betting on? And I think it was after the big kickback return in the Ottawa game, he had kind of walked by again. And I saw him just like looking at us, and I could see it in his face, like he was longing for that opportunity to be part of something, to be part of a team, enjoying themselves, having fun, and winning money together. You could really see it in his face. John, do you know who I'm talking about? Do you remember that guy?
I do. Yeah, I do remember. I don't know that I ended up talking to him, but I think he did talk to a couple people in our group after that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I could just sort of see it in his face after the last time that he's somebody out there who really kind of wanted to be a part of that. And I didn't see that from anyone else there. I didn't see anybody celebrating their wins or even betting on sports or cheering in their wagers. It was like we were the only people there that were watching sports and betting on sports at the sports betting conference. I don't know. That was just something that I had noticed. I don't know. Did you guys see anybody doing that?
Well, I would say in anyone else's defense, a lot of these guys are working with syndicates or are pass posting, which they can't do while they're there.
Right.
And the thing is like, it's largely like, this is my role and I see the net result at the end of the month. And it takes a lot of the excitement out of it, but at the same time, it takes the human emotion out of things. So right now, Shane, if I told you that at the end of August, you're going to have had a 9% ROI and your unit size was going to grow and blah, 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 this, that, the other. And these are your results. And here's your money. Here's your take of it. And, your role in the equation is A, B, and C, but everyone else is taking care of all the other things that need to be done. You don't feel the tough Saturday, that we had at In Play Live. It doesn't affect you. It's a part of the equation. So there's two sides to it. The first is like, hey, these guys are having fun and that's super cool. And they're all friends and they just appear to have won some money. The second side of it is like, look at these degenerates keeping the books lights on, because this is what we profit from. All these people celebrating and cheering in the pool are the ones that are going to be net losers long term, even though that isn't us, right? So I think there are really two sides to that. I personally prefer, our side. But at the same time, it is nice sometimes from like a stress management and all the books and all that kind of thing where you go, hey, I'm just collecting that ROI check every single month. And I don't see the ups and the downs. However, on that note, at the pool, I was speaking to someone who did mention that they have had a tough, very few months as a part of their syndicate and their team and whatever it is that they do. So not a tough week or a tough day. A really challenging 5-month run. And that's where I do think what we do really, really reigns supreme. But I agree, net of it all, we are doing it as a team. We have become a very tightly knit group of, the people that do come together face to face. And it's hard to replace that because we're all friends.
Yeah. That's a good point though, that you make about some of the people who are sort of participating in the space in a very kind of stress-free way, that kind of takes the emotion out of it, and they're almost just like investing in a way, right? And just kind of taking their ROI and moving on. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, one of the other big takeaways for us and sort of my main objective of going to BetBash was to be able to bring BetBash to all of you now out there over the course of the next weeks and months, and bring some of those voices that we met at BetBash here onto the show and kind of just be able to sort of share that knowledge in an ongoing, continuous way throughout the year. I think mission accomplished. I met a ton of people. We've got like at least 7 or 8 guests locked in now, with many more kind of on the horizon. And I'm really looking forward to bringing all of those people to all of you guys out there, our loyal audience. And I hope that they bring some value to you. So you guys will be back, Pace and John, coming back for the Gridiron Grind. But before we do get to the Gridiron Grind, I'm going to bring you one of those voices. Time now to learn a little bit about the DeGenClub. All right, Steve Grantz, founder of DeGenClub. Steve, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Great, Shane. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, just before we get into everything that you're doing with DeGenClub, where it came from and all that sort of stuff, I just got to ask, how was your BetBash experience? I just told the guys about how we met at the open bar the one night, and then you were the first person I was talking to at Speed Networking the next day. How was your overall BetBash experience? It was great.
I mean, it's as a networking event, you can't beat it for the number of people you get exposed to and how many times you get to talk about what you're doing. It's just wonderful. Plus, you're obviously in Las Vegas. You're at Circa. It's just a great backdrop for that. It's a wonderful week. Despite the heat, you just manage to stay indoors and stay cool, and you have a good time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. We didn't even talk about the heat before. Man, it was hot. I don't think I've ever experienced that kind of heat in my life. That was absolutely insane. I don't know if I could ever go back to Vegas in the middle of summer again, unless maybe next year's BetBash.
Of course.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about DeGenClub. But first, I think if we're going to talk about DeGenClub, I've got to ask you, what was or is the Baltimore Degenerate Social Club? Because it seems like that was kind of how things all started. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. So that's the group of people that I play poker with every Thursday, right? So we've given ourselves that moniker. We've been getting together for over
Love 17, that name.
Yeah, we've been getting together over 17 years now, playing every week. We really don't miss except for maybe holidays. That's the only time we really don't get together. And this is a group of people that we can kind of suggest anything to them and they're going to go for it, right? Like most of the time we spend at the table, there'll be prop bets going all night long. All has to happen is a song comes on the radio and someone says I think that song came out in 1984 and people are setting lines and making side bets around it. So it's a real group that's amenable to exactly this kind of thing. And we joined the Circa Picks contest a few years back as a group. I did it. I was there. I was in town at the time in the summer, and I got in the contest with a proxy. I came back. People started wanting to buy shares of the contest. And it wound up being almost oversubscribed. So I'm thinking, well, rather than sell shares at $100 each, let's just double that up. We'll pay the proxy. We'll make a side pot, and we'll have our own little intramural side contest for which of us are the better individual handicappers. And to manage that, I built a website that basically took people's picks in, summed them all up, and we kind of could rate each other. But at the same time, what that did was it allowed me to see what the most picked teams were. And that's actually what we entered into the Circuit contest every week. So that was that's what started it really. Then the guys really liked it. We did it again the next year. Then they started having feature requests. And I thought, well, look, as long as I'm building this for me, why shouldn't I do this for other people? And that was last year. I launched just before BetBash last year. Got it going with just a picks contest and Survivor, and another contest called the Worst Team in the NFL. That's what I started with. And by the time the season went on, I built a prediction engine. You could use that for the presidential election. You could also use it at the end of the NFL season for player awards. You could do a prediction contest around what players won various awards, like Offensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, etc. I also use it for a coaching carousel. So you could kind of see all the vacancies for head coaching jobs. I listed the top candidates for those jobs. You picked which ones you thought were going to be the who got picked, sum it up, and whoever the best predictor of that is won that contest. So we did all these kind of contests over the course of the year, brackets, Calcutta's auctions around the NCAA tournament. I set one up for the Masters. Again, as you can tell, this group of guys in the Baltimore Degenerate Social Club, they'll kind of go for anything. And I hope that, by people being able to use the site, they can kind of take advantage of that sort of like mad scientist in the lab and run these contests for themselves all year long.
Okay. How many people are we talking about that kind of were participating in this initially?
Initially, it was about 5 or 6 in that first contest, right? Or like about 10 for everybody that wanted to get a piece of that contest. But it scales up pretty well. I mean, I've done things for like, we had a papal conclave contest also this past year where people can make predictions about who is going to get selected as the next pope, how long the conclave was going to last, what continent they were going to come from, all kinds of things like that. And that had pretty broad appeal. I put that out in my network of friends. And we had I think 30 or 40 people making those predictions on the site. So it scales up pretty well.
Okay, so you've gotten up to 30, 40. We're talking dozens of people. Is this something that you see scaling en masse, though? Hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands?
I think for an individual contest, I'm definitely gearing more towards like that group of social friends that get together. If you sign up on the site and create your own club and start inviting people, it's going to cap it at around 200. I don't necessarily see a technical limit to that, though. So, if someone wanted to use it for like a really large contest they run that's been going a number of years, for instance, just reach out to me. I'll kind of take those limits off. We'll take the guardrails off and we'll talk about how best to make that happen.
Gotcha. Okay. What are you hoping, that this becomes? Is the idea to like replace something like office pools?
I think for sure. I mean, the great thing about office pools is it lets you get things up quickly and get it going. Obviously, the drawback is, the idea is kind of a one-off model, right? I need to run a large office pool around something. People will sign up. I pay a one-time fee to do my contest and we all walk away. Again, this is for, groups that are like, they're together. You want to run a lot of contests all year long and you want to do it year after year. And so, the pricing model is more an all you can eat. You get on, you set things up. Once people join, they're free to join as many contests as you want to run all year long. And then, of course, the bookkeeping works that way too. There's a whole page that exists for the organizers so they can see, exactly what contest they've entered, how much that they should be, getting back to you as an organizer so you can run the contest. And of course, when things resolve, it'll show you who gets paid and give you a number there and you know who to send it to.
I know you mentioned being able to sort of have a contest about who the next pope is going to be. I love stuff like that. Or is there any sort of like other like really kind of weird contests that you've seen created?
So the Academy Awards, that was one that I wasn't necessarily expecting we to see some demand for that, but people wanted it. So I made sure to get that up and running. In the past, as a group, we've done some, really just very specific things to our own group. For instance, we had my father at one point was having dinner with me talking about a retired couple that he knew that were going to hit the road and that's where they're going to live full time, which is great. But, he said, I don't know how long it's going to last. I wish I could bet on that. And sure enough, I said, well, look, I know exactly the people that would do this kind of thing if you want. And so we set that up. Now that I set up in a spreadsheet that was years ago and kept track of it. But that's exactly the kind of thing that you can do better on a site like this, because again, you don't want to have to go back and remember all the time who picked what date, who sent me money, who owes, who doesn't owe. I had another bet with a friend of mine from high school. After Doug Peterson lost his job as the Eagles head coach, he wanted to make a bet on whether Peterson would win a Super Bowl before the Eagles could. And that's the kind of thing that can take years to resolve. The site is built for that. There's a prop sort of function on the site too. You can kind of offer a prop as a club member and other club members can take you up on it. And you don't have to worry about keeping track of who took that action, what side they took, and for how much. The site's just going to keep track of all of it. And then just when it comes time to resolve it, you just go through, mark it as what the outcome was, and everything else will get graded by the site.
It's one thing, a group of people can go on there, they can create their contest. They can compete against each other and it's all fun. And maybe they put a little bit of money on the line and they get, adds to that excitement. And there's that. But what about what if I were to go on and I wanted to create a contest for me and my group of friends? Is it possible though that you and your group of friends might see the contest and think, oh, I kind of want in on that? And is there a way to kind of, allow people to compete against each other that maybe don't know each other and aren't part of the same group?
Shane, I might need to come on board as my product manager to make sure I'm putting these feature requests together and getting this done. I really want to do something like that. I want to start that with the props. So I want to give people an option when they create it. Like, is this public interest or not?
Okay.
And then other people can see it and they're like, oh, that's really fun. I might want to offer that. So that, take that again, that Doug Peterson bit. That's kind of clever, right? Somebody might see that and pick up on that. Like, yeah, I kind of want to offer that. I do have the sharing feature, so you can kind of quickly, share content from the site and push it out to a social media channel. But that exact kind of thing you were talking about, like, hey, I came up with this contest. Other people might want to use it. That's something I very much would like to do.
Cool. Now, you spent all of BetBash kind of talking about this. I imagine you were probably talking to people about it as you kind of went along, as you kind of met guys like me and others. What was sort of some of the reception you were getting from people? And how did your BetBash conversations around DeGenClub go?
They went really well. One of the things I think really resonated with people was the Calcuttas, the idea of running an auction, whether that's around the NCAA tournament or the Masters event, where you take the participants and you auction off to the highest bidder. All that money goes into a pot. And then as the competitors advance in the competition, it starts to pay out from the pot. That kind of thing is a lot of fun to do if you've ever done it. And if not, it's something most people would want to do, but it's difficult to organize. It's not the kind of thing that's like as easy as just like, everybody putting, money in the pot for a Super Bowl square, say, and you just kind of keep track and, you're done at the end of the night. A little more involved. So that really resonated. And I talked to a number of people that run multiple Calcuttas during the course of the year. And they thought that was really intriguing. And so that's another thing I'll probably lean into a little bit this year, try to do more to set that up and make that happen and allow people to do more Calcuttas for different things. World Cup is coming up next summer. I can definitely see that being a good candidate for that kind of auction contest.
Okay, so let me just kind of get my head around this a bit. It's almost as if, like, I'm kind of comparing it to a fantasy football auction draft. Is that sort of the same kind of model we're talking about here?
It's not, because with a fantasy football auction draft, you're kind of limiting a roster. You kind of know how many teams you're going to get. With this kind of event, you could wind up with one team. You could wind up with four. So for instance, when we have our NCAA tournament bracket auction, obviously the number one seeds are going to go for a high amount. The lower seeds are going to go for a lower amount. But some people might decide their strategy is, look, I like a lot of the 8-9 seeds. I think the ones are vulnerable. I'm going to gobble up, the 8-9 seeds in a couple of brackets where I think the number one team is a little overrated, and hope that they get through to the point where they pay out. And so as an auctioneer, you choose the lot, say, like, hey, we're going to do the number 12 seed now. People start bidding on it. When you're done auctioning it, you put the amount in, you move on to the next team. And the site's great because it keeps track of what the current bid is, who the winning bidders are when that happens, and then that running tally for the pot, so that the people bidding understand kind of what's at stake and what they should start making those bids for.
Okay, I think I'm getting a better understanding of it now. This actually sounds really cool. So let's go back to the World Cup as an example, right? And we'll talk about maybe some of the big teams in that. Like, we're talking, we're going to have, 32 teams or whatever it is in the World Cup. I could bid on one team. I could bid on 10 teams, all depending on how much money I want to contribute into the pot and how much I think a team is worth. This could get kind of out of hand, though, right?
Absolutely.
We could have somebody, bidding $100 on a mid-tier team, maybe one of those maybe Ghana or something like that. A team out of some of those African teams, perhaps, or a team like South Korea putting $100-$200. But then somebody could come along and say, I want to put 10,000 on Brazil, or I want to bid 10,000 to get Brazil or Spain or Germany.
Exactly. And as the pot goes, and it's going to become more attractive to do that. A key thing with that kind of contest is you want to have something available for the lower seeded teams. So for the World Cup, I can envision doing something where the team with the worst goal differential after the pool play gets 10% of the pot. And that'll encourage bidding on some of the lower seeded teams, the teams that aren't as fanciful, right? Obviously, Brazil, France, England, these are going to go for high amounts because people think they can actually make it through the knockout stages. But you want to have interest on those other teams, Honduras, say, if they make it through, or those kinds of teams where, you want to have some sort of interest for them and some reason for people to bid. So you put that kind of prize out there. Typically with the NCAA tournament, it's the team with the biggest blowout loss, for instance.
Gotcha. Okay, so sort of finding a way to kind of incentivize people to want to take those lower seeded teams.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. And yeah, you could totally do this with the NCAA March Madness tournament as well.
Oh.
Yeah. Have you done this yet, or like experimented with it at all yet?
Oh, we do it every year. Yeah, we've been
doing it every year.
Yeah, that Baltimore DeGen Social Club, we do a tournament bracket auction every year. Done it for the last 7 or 8 years. The prize pool goes up every year. I think we had, I don't want to say the kind of number we had this past year, but it was it was enough to buy a car as the total amount, in the pool. It was pretty big. And of course, Florida won. I was lucky enough to have Florida. Good for me.
And so how many people did you have participating in that? And like, how many teams did each person have?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we, in order to try to incentivize the lower seed teams to get some action, we actually bundle up the dogs of the regions together. So there's only, at that point then, there's like, instead of there being 64 teams available, there's actually something in the order of like 52 or something like that. We had bidders from 30 different people in that auction. And we had 20 different winners. We had 20 different people that actually wound up getting teams. One guy likes to go up and down the brackets and try to pull a lot of them. So he probably had the lion's shares of teams. But the number 1 and number 2 seeds, for example, they were pretty well spread out. I think we had those were separated. Those are spread out among like 5 or 6 different people.
Okay. So nobody was trying to bid high amounts on more than one of those top seeded teams.
Well, there's definitely gamesmanship. You'll see people like putting the higher bids in, just to kind of drive up prices, especially if they think somebody really wants that team. Right. You'll see that happen.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all part of the strategy, I suppose.
Yeah.
How many people did you have participate in this now? Because I know you said, the DeGenClub started with like 6 or 8 people, but I imagine there was a lot more people in your latest March Madness competition.
Totally. At this point, if you add up the numbers for all the people that have ever participated in any of our contests over the last 2 years, it's around 85 to 90 folks.
Wow. Okay. All right. So you're getting a good amount for that, for those March Madness ones.
For sure. You set this up with your friends, and not everyone's going to be interested in the same thing, but especially for these kind of like non-sports related things, the entertainment things like the Conclave or like the Academy Awards, you put the word out among your larger network of friends, people are going to join, and it's a great way to get people together and have fun and have something to talk about. It's not just your hardcore, sports folks that get together with this. Like it really does kind of have broader appeal.
Yeah, this is a real like kind of social competition or sort of a way to kind of enhance a social event. You're throwing a party, you're bringing people over to watch the Oscars, maybe you do something like that.
Totally. Yeah, just send out the link ahead of time. People can make their predictions, and then you can just watch the leaderboard as the night goes on. I'm kind of grading out the Academy Awards as they happen, and I'm updating the site. So, you're going to see in real time, like when it gets down to those last few categories of, best film and best director, you're going to know who's in the running and who's up against who. And I can imagine side action happening right at that party at that point.
Yeah. No, really cool stuff that you're working on there. Best of luck to you, Steve, on it. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, because I was, mentioning one of the seminars that I was in, and I think you were one of the other very few people in the room at BetBash for this particular seminar. It was Inside the Player's Journey. And, we had an operator up on stage. We had a regulator up on stage, a responsible gaming advocate.
Right.
You were in the room there with me. And I think Steve, what would you say? There was maybe 20 people in that room. It was probably one of the most sparsely attended seminars of BetBash.
It was one of the more sparsely ones. But, honestly, the thing was, I thought the conversation there was pretty lively. Even though there was a small number of people there, a lot of people from the audience participated in the conversation on stage. And, as a result, like sometimes those smaller sessions at BetBash, it can kind of encourage that sort of dialogue. And I thought it was actually wound up being pretty interesting.
I thought it was probably one of the most substantial conversations that I participated in at BetBash. It was, it was really informative. It was interesting to hear other people's perspectives. We had like a politician in the room. We had like a serious investor in the room, and of course, the people up on stage and then people like you and me. And it was really interesting. What would you say is one of your biggest takeaways from that conversation?
Well, from that conversation, again, like, first of all, just to mention, how cool is BetBash that like that's the kind of broad appeal, as much as it's, you think about it in terms of like sports betting and networking for sports bettors, but the fact you have regulators, investors, people from the actual operators, former, lawyers and other folks, getting them all in a room to talk about something like that is pretty cool. I think Spanky's done a really nice job there. I thought one of the bigger takeaways from that conversation was the notion that like, we really do still kind of press the responsible gaming onto the individual. And like, we talk about responsible gaming, or like, what was the other term they used for the abusive one? Like, doesn't matter, but we don't want to really talk about responsible operating, right? Like that's not something that comes out of it. I thought that was pretty interesting. What was not said in that conversation, I thought was pretty interesting.
And yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. What is responsible operating? And maybe that is how we shift the conversation a little bit. Yeah, appreciate that, Steve. I hadn't thought about that from that side of things. Yeah, responsible operating. I think as we bring more people onto the show, I might sort of pose that idea to them. I'm going to take that one from you there, Steve. Well, listen, buddy, really appreciate you coming on our podcast to chat a little bit about what you do and as well as your experience at BetBash. It was great meeting you there. And all the best to you and to the work you're doing with DeGenClub. I might have to get on there and give it a little try myself.
Please do, Shane. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, guys, that was Steve Grantz from the DeGenClub. But time now for the Gridiron Grind. Gosu's back. Pace is back. Guys, let's kick things off Thursday night. CFL, Bombers at Alouettes. John, what are we looking at there?
Yeah, so the line right now, we've got the Bombers favored on the road, -4.5 at Montreal. So Montreal, I'm assuming Caleb Evans is going to be starting again, or maybe it'll be that other guy. I can't even remember his name, like Morton or something like that. Morgan came in. He honestly, like, as far as backups in the CFL are concerned, didn't look that bad. But this line is exactly where I make this line. So even with all the quarterback uncertainty, so this game is just a pass for me.
Okay. Friday night, Elks go to Ottawa to face the Red Blacks.
Yeah. So this one is really interesting to me. So Ottawa is favored by 1.5 at home against Edmonton right now. So I know about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think somebody asked me, or was you, Shane, or Pace, that is Ottawa the worst team in the league?
Yeah,
and I think at the time I said yes, maybe. I'll tell you what's really weird now. Going back, looking through a lot of advanced box score stuff and second order win projections, like I actually have them in the top half of the league now. After I've got a large sample size of kind of accounting for things like turnover luck, variance, field goal luck, stuff like that, that are really important in handicapping. They're actually showing that they're pretty strong in terms of power ranking. So I actually think this line should be about -4. So I'm definitely going to be on Ottawa money line.
Ottawa?
Juice. Yeah, Ottawa money line at home against Edmonton.
Ottawa
juice. Yeah, we're betting them again. The way we won last week.
Our guys that we've also been betting on Edmonton.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. Somebody has to be a favorite in this game, so we unfortunately can't.
I thought for sure we were taking Edmonton. Sure. I thought you were talking about Edmonton, that they rank higher than they should. Okay, all right.
So here's the thing. So in the CFL in the past, typically there's teams that are really good and there's teams that are really bad. And like earlier in the season, I think maybe like week 2 or 3, I said we're going to start getting double-digit spreads here. Well, this season, there's just been a lot of bad or mediocre football. And so in all honesty, when I do power rankings right now, I don't have anybody more than a touchdown favorite on a neutral field over anybody else. And some of that has to do with the quarterback situations, right? With like Chad Kelly never coming back, Alexander's out, now Cloud's out. So it's just a lot of uncertainty there, but it's just a really parallel league right now where I think anybody can kind of win on a day-to-day basis. So that's where we're at. But as far as this game, I like Ottawa. So I took their money line at -115.
All right. Ottawa money line. Lock it in. All right. Next up, Saturday doubleheader once again. First game, BC Lions at the Toronto Argos.
Yeah, BC -3.5 right now in the market. I make it about -3. So I don't see much value on either side of that game. Probably just a wait and see kind of game for me. And then Calgary hosting Saskatchewan for the later game on Saturday. Calgary is slight dog. I think I see Saskatchewan like minus 115 on the money line in the market there. So I kind of think that line should be a little bit more towards Calgary. I know Saskatchewan keeps rolling, but I don't make it enough that they should be really a favorite there. So there's not going to be much for me in that game. It's just kind of a coin flip either way, but probably look to see if maybe Calgary comes out pretty good there and we can maybe jump on something there.
Okay, so really it's just the Red Blacks again.
Oh yeah. 2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. All right. Week 0 of the college football season. Also baby. Beginning Friday. Is it Friday? Is there a game Friday or is it all Saturday?
Just Saturday. I think just there's Saturday. 5 games Saturday.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. Look, Saturday is really going to start heating up. Hey, so you ready?
I'm ready to rumble. Yeah. I mean, week 0, I don't get too excited about. That's all I would say.
Yeah. John, you excited?
Oh yeah.
What do we like?
All right. So we start in Dublin, Ireland, for some reason, is one of the least American things to start the college football season in Ireland. But we have a really important conference game between 2 ranked teams, Iowa State and Kansas State. So the line right now, Kansas State, anywhere from -3 to -3.5. I think it should be closer to 5.5. So I actually have placed a small bet on Kansas State -3 flat at low juice at -105. So that's a smaller bet for me. Like, you think of like your quarter unit type plays. But I do like Kansas State. I like what they bring back. I think they had a disappointing season last year, a lot of injuries. But I think that they're the better team in this one. And I think getting the field goal to push there, I like that. And then later on in the day, we get Fresno State at Kansas. So this line's sitting, it's been bouncing around the market like somewhere between 11 and 14. Right now you can get Kansas -12, as low as -12, but it's also as high as 13.5 out there. I like Kansas anything 13.5 or less. I'll land the points there. I make it closer to 17.5. So I think I'm getting a good amount of value there. Fresno is just a team that's in the Mountain West. I think they're about middle of the pack there, struggling to reload bottom or outside the top 100 in both recruiting and the transfer portal this year. Kansas in the top 50 and at least in the transfer portal. So Jalen Daniels back again. He's one of the best quarterbacks, most electric quarterbacks in college football when he's healthy. So I like the -12 there. They're actually playing at home this year. They had to play games at Arrowhead as they renovated last year. So getting their fans and the students back in the crowd for a team that I think it can actually has a shot at that conference. I really like that -12 against a middling group of 5 team.
Okay. So, and up to -13.5. So essentially you like them for 2 touchdowns.
I do. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that was Kansas -13.5, Kansas State -3. And you would take that to what?
I only would take the 3 flat. I wouldn't take a 3.5. Yeah. Cause I make it 5. But I think it's like, I think the total is kind of lower. It's like I think it's like 49 for like a Big 12 game is actually pretty low. And there could be some wind there in that stadium as well. And it's a neutral field. So the 3, I think, is an important number there.
Okay, got it. And of course, just to recap again, the Red Blacks money line.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Awesome. Good stuff, guys. Well, it was just great hanging out with you again all last week in Vegas. Lots of fun there. And looking forward to an awesome football season ahead. All right, guys. But till next week, and to all of you out there tuning in from around the world, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join in Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.